All right, well, we're going to go ahead and start. My name is Adrian, and I have on here as well Michelle. I am a business development manager here at Mosaic, and Michelle is over with SolarEdge. And what we wanted to go through is basically just how we can finance your sales and how you can sell batteries in the home. So I'll go ahead and get started. Basically what we're going to cover here on the Mosaic side. Why do we use financing options? Why Mosaic, SolarEdge, and some of their offerings that they have available, as well as their inside sales tips for how to sell. And then we'll have a little Q&A afterwards. So I'll go ahead and we have a quick poll. Let's go ahead and launch that now. Just kind of wondering who's currently using Mosaic and what number of projects do you finance? All right. Go ahead and close the poll. And looks like most of you already use Mosaic. So this part of the presentation may be a little repetitive, but always good to have the most up-to-date information. And looks like we have kind of a spread, right? Folks finance somewhere around 50, 75%. That sounds about right with everything we know about how often people do finance. So why use solar finance? I think since most of you guys use Mosaic and it seems like everyone does some amount of financing, you probably know selling on a monthly payment helps you avoid a sticker shock, right? It's an easier conversation to have on the kitchen table to talk about a utility bill that's $150 and a payment that's $150 versus a utility bill that's $150 and a payment or a total cost that might be $35,000, $40,000, right? So Mosaic has some of the best approval rates in the industry. We can get more energy projects qualified, and more qualified buyers should mean more sales, right? We'll pay you faster. We fund on every business day. So as soon as you hit your milestone, we can fund the next business day after that. No need to go to your customers to get payments. We stand out from all of our competitors because we offer a different variety of financing options. We have loan tenors from 5 years all the way to 25 years, and we have multiple APRs for every one of those terms, which gives you a lot of flexibility for what you can offer and what fits your clients best. So one of the things about providing financing, right? 54% are financed, seems about right with the poll that we just had. You get a seamless sales process. You get near instant approval. You can help people who can't afford a cash price. I think most people probably can't afford an instant $30,000 or $40,000, right? But they can afford their local bill, and you can help them get to that point with a monthly payment on the financing that we offer. And you add a lot of credibility, right? Your competitors are probably offering financing, and consumers are used to using financing for large purchases. So the ability to walk in and say, hey, I've got an option for you that'll work, helps you differentiate yourself and also keep up with the competition. The benefits of Mosaic, right? We are the #1 issuer of solar loan bonds in the market, which basically means we're here and we'll be available for you. We have low monthly payments for the customers, right? We have competitive dealer fees. And with those dealer fees, we have different options, ranging from zero dealer fee to a higher dealer fee and a lower APR. And we even have some zero dealer fee options and pretty attractive home improvement and solar rates. So we can do home improvement and solar, not just solar. Some of the benefits using Mosaic, right? We have a 620 FICO floor, so we can help a lot of your customers get qualified. We look for first look, of course, right? We always want a higher FICO, but we can go down to 620. We do just a soft credit check. So on the pre-approval, you'll be able to know before you actually get a hard check, you'll be able to know whether the customer will apply. It's always really awkward if you get to the end and they don't actually apply, or they can't actually apply for the loan. So good to know in advance, just a soft credit check doesn't affect their credit. We have a very low stip rate. We have a human being that's going to review each one of these steps within 10 minutes and be able to get a response to you. We can do loans on non-primary residences. Everybody in the household can qualify. So anyone who's on the title can qualify with their income. And there is no debt to income. Now, we generally, like most people, we review solar as a bill replacement. And so we don't do a debt to income ratio. We can look at the property value, we can look at the income, and we can look at what the bill is. And we have an internal Mosaic algorithm that will help decide whether that person gets approved. So we'll be able to approve more than other lenders. We also have a very easy application process. What you see here is basically a native program that's been integrated with one of the proposal tools. If there's any proposal tool that you're using that we're not integrated with, you should let us know in the chat, because we definitely want to integrate with them. But we're in with basically all the major proposal tools. That'll allow you at the kitchen table to basically say, hey, here's your design. Here's what it's going to cost, right? Let's get you approved right now. Just in a couple minutes, we'll be able to get a response and then be able to move forward with the sale. Now, the different products that we offer, we have our Power Switch Choice. This is suited for homeowners who want to add solar and batteries. Consistent monthly payment for the full loan. It's also designed to work on the 30% ITC. So you're going to have a lower payment at the beginning, and then at 18 months, it'll re-amortize to whatever amount you paid off. Basically, this is going to give you a really attractive intro rate, allow the customer to take the 30% ITC, and then they can decide whether or not to apply it or how much to apply it. Maybe they really want a pair of jet skis and only apply part of the payment, or maybe they want to apply all of it and keep a lower monthly payment. We also offer Power Switch Plus. This is going to be for homeowners who want to add solar energy as well as other improvements. So let's say you're actually selling an HVAC, not even selling solar. You're just going to sell HVAC, and maybe the customer says, hey, what about solar? You can offer that as well. You also can be doing solar, and turns out that they also want to get a new roof or add batteries in there as well. So we can do roof, doors, windows all at the same time under the Power Switch Choice product. Other products for home improvement, right? Just home improvement specific products, a reduced rate APR so that you can have a regular amortizing loan. And then we have a promotional deferred interest loan products as well. And those are for specifically only for home improvement. So if there's no solar, and you just been doing home improvement with with roofing and batteries, then you'd be able to use one of these products. And then the last thing I want to touch on is our world-class support. We have a dedicated team of underwriters with direct phone line who are tasked to resolving any steps that may come up on the application. Available from 8 to 10, Monday through Friday, from 8 to 6 on weekends, so we can resolve that, keep your sales pipeline flowing. We've got a dedicated team of account managers. Those regional account managers are basically in every market, and they're going to help support your team. They're going to be in your region, and they can come meet you in person. In fact, they actually love to travel, so they'd love to come by and say hi to your team, learn your operation, see how we can help you. And we have a dedicated customer support team, both for installers and for borrowers. So if something comes up, Mosaic support team is there 7 days a week, answering 95% of our phone calls within 40 seconds. That's a stat I just love, right? They're going to be up there within 40 seconds. Normally, when I call the bank, I'm on hold for God knows how long, and sometimes they just call me back. So really having a fast return time is critical, especially when you're sitting in the customer's house, right? And with that, we'll talk a little bit about the benefits of adding a battery, and we'll specifically leave the actual battery sales because I think that's more for SolarEdge. But what we can do on the battery side, right? It's going to maximize the energy use in your system. I live in Texas, and we had this freeze a couple years ago. You might have heard about it. The whole time it was sunny. I mean, like the first day it was a little bit of snow, but then it was sunny the whole time. And for days, I basically had no power, and because the solar system doesn't turn on, unless you have a battery there or a transfer switch. So a battery would have helped, because we actually would have been quite warm. We could have run our AC or our heater off of the electricity from a battery. Unfortunately, we ended up with 2 hours of heat and 10 hours of cold on a cycle where I think the house topped out at about 38 degrees. So it was not a pleasant time with me and the fiance. It also helps with rising utility rates, so we can offset time of use rates. And of course, the blackouts is the usual one, right? You get a kind of an old electrical grid that's kind of a little bit failing. Batteries are a great place for that. For battery-only loans, we also offer specific products for that, right? So on the choice, we can do battery-only, and it's $55,000. Now for solar, it would be $135,000. So it's a little bit less for batteries, but you should be able to cover a fair amount of batteries in most houses in that case. Also, it's a 10-year term. So you can go back to old solar customers you have, and you can say, look, we've got an option for you now to just do batteries, and we can add those in. So with that, I'm going to go ahead and turn it over to Michelle and let her take over. How do we sell batteries in the home?
Thanks so much, Adrian. Yeah, I appreciate everyone being here and also answering all of the questions that we asked as a part of the registration, because it really helped us to see where everyone was at. And it looks like everyone here has kind of dipped their toes into solar batteries, but maybe on average, it seemed like about 20% or less attach rate. So I would love to talk to this group today about how to make solar battery sales a bit easier, and some advantages of SolarEdge and why you would want to use us. But I've been in solar sales for 12 years, and definitely did not lead with batteries in the beginning, but learned that leading with batteries was the correct route, as opposed to offering it in the back end. So if there was one tip I would say today is try your luck at leading with batteries whenever you can. It's much easier to start large and pare down than to talk about solar and then try to add on things. But we'll talk about that a bit. And the reason why I say it is solar batteries are not going away. So we're seeing that even during the pandemic, solar plus battery installations grew by 30% in 2021 over 2020. Of course, this year there are several different utility changes and net metering changes that are going to shift that even more. But we're anticipated to grow to over 50% by 2025. And this really is because of the higher than normal severe weather, causing an increase in outages in a lot of areas. In places like California as well, and in other states, we do have a grid that fails quite a bit, to the point that the utility actually turns off our power to avoid things like wildfires. So this is happening in not just California, but in other states. And if you see on this screen, there's some states, if you're shout out to Louisiana, if you're calling in from there, that has a very high amount of outages. This is essentially saying that they have about 3 to 4 outages on average per customer every year. And that equates to about 60 hours being out of power. So, fully unacceptable when it comes to power resiliency, but we're feeling it all over the country. And I would ask this group, before we keep going, just in the questions box, how many of us actually run into homeowners that think and have the misconception that when you go solar, regardless of if you have a battery or not, that you'll have power in an outage? That if you go solar, you will have power in an outage. I think that that is a misconception as a salesperson that we have to overcome a lot. Because of course, if you go solar without a battery, your power will go out. But my challenge to this group is, why don't we just give them what they want? Because we do have the ability to give them the power in an outage. And then we have these other states, like California, for example, this year, that have changed their net metering policy to make it not advantageous for homeowners to export their energy to the grid anymore. Essentially, homeowners are going to be paying about 75% more for their energy than they are going to be receiving to export that energy. And so it doesn't make any sense for people to export their energy anymore in California. But this is happening in other states in the country as well, where they are making NEM policies that are not as advantageous. So we're seeing this happen in other states. And right now is really the time to start getting used to these battery sales, because we will start seeing them, nationwide. Already, we're seeing Indiana change their utility infrastructure, the Carolinas, some places in Texas. And so we're going to see that they follow suit with California a lot of the time. But it's a bit simpler than you may think. So we are seeing really 2 types of homeowners when it comes to batteries. I like to call this guy storage for self-consumption. So this is that customer that we're running into in California, where we want to store your energy and we want you to be able to use it at night to offset those higher energy rates in time of use markets. And we want you to not touch the grid as much as possible, whether that's using their energy or exporting their energy. We want to avoid it. So this is that storage for self-consumption option. We also have these homeowners that I like to call batteries for backup power customers. These are those ones that Adrian talked about. You know, we're running into this as still the primary reason why people go batteries, but homeowners that need that resiliency and that safety because of rampant outages. So these are really those two buckets that we have in terms of customers when we're thinking about batteries. So as I mentioned, in California specifically, we use the battery differently. One of the biggest challenges about selling batteries is being able to seamlessly and simply explain it to homeowners. How the heck am I going to use my battery at night, right? So this is one way we like to explain it in like a NEM3 environment. Having a battery in California allows you to have energy independence. It allows you to become your own power plant. It's also going to help you insulate from changes in energy policy. And ultimately, Mr. Customer, it allows you to store the energy you produce so that you can utilize it at times that are most advantageous to you and your home. And that's really how we would be doing this in a self-consumption environment. So essentially, we want to run your home on solar during the day when your solar is producing the most. We're also going to store some of that energy so that when those high peak rates are happening during your day, we're going to transition your home to use that stored energy that you produced during the day. So we'll transition and use that battery during those high peak rates, and then we're going to continue to leverage that battery for as long as we can during the nighttime hours. Again, becoming your own power plant. We want to avoid touching the grid as much as possible. So at SolarEdge, we have 3 different options for your homeowners. Let's start on the right-hand side. And this was a big question that came in the registration questions, was how many batteries do I need for full home backup? So obviously that that is determined by the usage of the home and what they want to back up. So we'll talk about that a little bit more. But with SolarEdge, you have the capability of full home backup. Does anybody here use SolarEdge and for 10 brownie points know how many batteries you can put on one SolarEdge inverter? How many batteries can you put on one SolarEdge inverter? All right, I see a couple coming through. So yeah, so 3, you can put 3 batteries per inverter and up to 3 inverters per house. So what that means is your homeowners can have 9 batteries if they really needed that much power. And that typically is enough to power, you know, any whole home backup. We have a couple nine battery systems in places like Las Vegas where people have multiple central AC units. But usually 3 to 4 batteries max is going to back up that entire house. We then have essential home backup options. I like to think of this as 1 to 2 batteries, things that people have an essential backup solution for things that they absolutely need to have in an outage scenario. So the essentials like refrigerators, lights, Wi-Fi, maybe it's a portable AC or heater, maybe it's a well pump. 1 to 2 battery systems will suffice in that situation. And then we have what's called the rate saver solution. So if you notice, there's one box that's missing here, and that's the backup interface. So what does a backup interface do? Well, essentially, simplest term is that's going to disconnect the home from the grid. So if we don't have a backup interface in this scenario, essentially what we're using this battery for is only self-consumption. We want to leverage this battery as a bucket to store energy during the day so that we can utilize that energy at night. And this is what we're doing in California as the lowest cost option for the homeowners in California. This is essentially just a self-consumption battery that allows homeowners to store their energy and use it at night. It will not give them backup capabilities. But without those backup capabilities, it does yield a higher return on investment because they are not setting their home up for backup capable options. So those are really the 3 options we have available at SolarEdge. And we talked about those two buckets, right? We talked about storage for self-consumption homeowners, and then we talked about the batteries for backup power homeowners. How do you determine which bucket your homeowner falls into? And really, it's a good needs analysis. And so I like to, when we're talking about batteries, to ask homeowners to paint the picture of what happened in a blackout last time. So tell me about the last time you were in a blackout. How long did it last? What was the longest blackout you've ever experienced, and when was that? My favorite question is, what was most uncomfortable about the blackout last time? So Adrian, what was most uncomfortable about the blackout when you had it in Texas during the freeze?
Wearing every clothing item I own, kind
And
of poofed up.
yeah, so freezing, I think you said 38 degrees was the high in the house.
38 degrees. I mean, it was 2 outside, but 38 inside. We had ice on the
And
windows.
how long did that blackout last?
We were on off power for about 4 days.
So this was an ad hoc role play that I just did with Adrian. He didn't know, but if you see, if that homeowner has experience in a blackout, they have that pain that they can go back to if you're allowing them to paint the picture. If you heard a homeowner say they were in a blackout for 4 days, that is something that you can really dive into, because that's, to me, and I think probably to all of you, fully unacceptable, right? Like, we can't have that happen to our family and friends. And so being able to have this needs analysis where you're asking questions and allows them to paint the picture for you is also doing something for you as a salesperson. It allows you to make a list of what they need in order for them to feel comfortable in a blackout. So what Adrian told me was he needed to have some sort of heater, right? Whether it's a portable heater or if it's his HVAC unit, that was his number one pain point. And so what I want to do is not give him a bunch of disclaimers that one battery is not going to back up the house or the heater, but I want to instead offer him the option that's going to fit his needs. Because a lot of times I think when we sell batteries, we kind of apologize for the price or apologize for it not being able to back up the whole home with one battery. But we don't have to do that. We can offer this homeowner something that they are looking for. So I want them to make the list for me. A lot of times homeowners will say, well, all the food went bad in the fridge. My kids were driving me crazy because there were no lights. They had no games. We couldn't use Wi-Fi. I couldn't work from home because I didn't have any internet. So these are things that your homeowner might paint the picture for you. Alternatively, if this homeowner says, look, I have never had an outage here, like I have no pain in an outage, then maybe this is not a candidate for batteries. Or if you're in California, maybe this is your candidate for storage for self-consumption, or in these other places that have time of use rates. You still have an opportunity to sell the value of self-consumption if that homeowner doesn't have blackouts in their area. So being able to leverage a needs analysis like this always helped me in the home get to exactly which bucket that homeowner falls into. So let's talk about sizing. This is always the most challenging part. And I think that this was where we got the most questions, right? So let's do an expectation quick check. So what does whole home backup actually mean to the homeowner? What is the expectation we should really be setting with the homeowner when we're talking about whole home? This is what I would do. Make sure that the homeowner knows that all loads in the home are backed up in the event of an outage, which means they have the flexibility to turn on and off what they want in an outage. But this doesn't mean that they should be running everything in an outage, because conservation is still key every single time you have an outage. Batteries capacity, no matter what, is going to be the same, regardless of home or critical load backup. And you want to make sure that they use their discretion to conserve their energy, even if they're in a whole home backup situation. So conserve in a blackout, avoid those heavier loads. The battery will drain faster if you're using mini circuits or heavy loads. So that brings me to the next question. We always have to determine and know what is a large load versus a small load in the house. And some of them might surprise you. So a small load, and we talk about those essentials, right? People always want to back up a refrigerator, the lights in the kitchen, those types of things, the basics. Those are all usually smaller loads. So living room lights, TV, Wi-Fi, all of those things. When we start getting into heavier loads, I think the first one we think of, right, is the AC, the central HVAC unit. We know that's a large load, but electric stoves, electric ovens, dryers. I don't know who wants to back up their dryer in a power outage. It gives me an excuse not to do laundry, but just know that is a large load if people do want to back it up. And I think one of the most surprising ones for people lately is EV chargers. So just because it's a small box on the wall doesn't mean it's a small load. It's a very heavy load. So if people are backing up their EV charger, just know that that is going to drain the battery very quickly. The next question we have to ask ourselves in understanding what batteries do is, what's the difference between power and capacity when we're talking about a battery solution? So usually we think about capacity, right? This battery's 10 kilowatt hours. That's usually what we think of. But power is just as important. So what is power? Power is how many things you can run at once. I like to think of it as the push. What is the power push that's going to be able to turn on as many things as I want in the house? What can I turn on and run consecutively in the home? That's the power. Capacity is how long are those things going to stay running? So if you are backing up a AC unit, for example, that's going to require much more power push than a refrigerator would because it's a heavier load. And it will also drain the battery faster, right? Because it's also a heavier load. So we have to think about power and capacity. With a homeowner, a way to describe this very easily, I don't know if this team is such a fan of analogies as I am, but I'm a big analogy fan when we're talking about solar. And I like to use the cell phone analogy with homeowners when we're talking about batteries, because sometimes when homeowners are not very familiar with solar batteries, they assume that they work differently than every other battery in our daily life. I am here to say that a solar battery works exactly the same as every other battery in our life. And cell phone is probably the biggest one we can think of. So think about how a battery in a cell phone functions. If you're using your phone to only make calls or texts versus using it to stream a video, how does it affect battery life, right? We are going to drain our battery faster if we stream a video. And so this is kind of the same thing as the solar battery. If we're using those heavy loads and those things are running constantly, then we're going to drain that battery faster. So here's a simple way to look at it. And we actually have an estimator tool on our website that you can use alongside homeowners as well. But this is really the quick way to reference it. So one battery we like to think about as essential loads. This is being able to back up about 8 to 10 circuits in the home, smaller circuits, ones that, what we call the smaller loads. And we'll be able to run about 3 continuous loads, things that run constantly throughout the outage, and then 2 to 3 intermittent loads consecutively. So our recommendation is to back up about 8 to 10 and then run about 2 to 3 intermittent loads at a time alongside our continuous. And then we have a 2 battery system. So 2 batteries is that partial home solution. We've seen this as much more popular than it ever has been because this gives homeowners the flexibility to add a couple heavier loads. So one that we see quite a bit is like a well pump, or maybe it's a smaller AC unit, like a split system, a 3-ton AC. A lot of times those 2 battery systems will work just fine. And then when you have that homeowner that says, I want that whole home backed up, it sounds like probably Adrian's scenario where he wants his HVAC unit backed up. It's probably going to be 3+ batteries. for that solution. But again, you have that option for your homeowners.
I
We'll
probably would have
make
taken an electric blanket, to be honest.
what was that?
I probably would have taken just an electric blanket at that point.
Oh, okay. Okay. So maybe we could have sold you on one battery with a portable heater and you would have been fine. I did feel when you were talking earlier, you had a little tinge of pain because you had solar and it wasn't working in the outage. So I can see how that would be a big disappointment. So we do have an estimator tool on our website. We'll make sure that you have that resource in the follow-up materials after this as well. But this allows you to kind of click on and off the devices, and it allows you to interact with it with homeowners so that you can really give them an idea of how long the battery is going to last relative to what they want to back up. So when we're talking about, remember, we did the needs analysis. We led with the battery in that solution, and we talked about the blackout and had that homeowner paint the picture for us. The recommended solution, so that's kind of at the end when you're giving them the recommendation, that's just as important as a really good needs analysis, because we want to make sure that we offer it up as a holistic package, an energy ecosystem package. So I would say something like, Mr. Homeowner, based on our discussion and your priorities when going solar, I've built you a custom proposal that includes 10 kW of solar plus a 2 battery system, right? So then it's a package solution. You want to discuss it as an energy solution, not just PV, not just solar. Refer back to evidence from the needs analysis. So I would then say, you told me about that Texas outage last year. Sounds like you were in the dark for 4 days on and off, and we want to make sure that doesn't happen to you this year. So referring back to what you had discussed about that. You want to go through the solution, review the design, and then cover financials as kind of the 1, 2, 3 of going through the recommended solution. And then, of course, we got to ask for that business and the next steps. So that's really the 4 steps of recommended solution, in my opinion, when we're really leveling in on a holistic solution and not just solar. Speaking of ecosystem, SolarEdge has an ecosystem of products that all work together. So we're really wanting to become the leader in smart energy. We're definitely the leader in solar optimizers and inverters globally. We're number 1 on that side on a global scale. We have acquired a battery manufacturer who's been in the space for a very long time. It's a top 5 global battery leader. They're named Kokum. We acquired them about 4 years ago. They are producing our residential battery for us, and we own that entire manufacturing process from beginning to end. Our home battery has been out for about 3 years now, and is fully available in distribution if you are interested in getting pricing on that. We also have an EV charger. We're going to dive in a little bit of detail on both of these items because I think these are really the hot ticket items right now in terms of this ecosystem. But that home hub inverter is our fully flexible inverter. It allows you to add batteries now or later, EV chargers now or later. So it's great for those homeowners that are really, looking for solar today, and their energy appetite will likely change down the road. We also have smart energy management devices on the price list right now as well. So these are allowing whole home backup to be much more attainable. Essentially what we do is we'll take this relay, put it on a heavy load, and that will automatically turn that heavy load off in an outage, so that you don't have to worry about even talking about which loads we want to back up. You can back up the whole home and then use these relays to turn off those heavy loads automatically in an outage. So let's talk about these 2 products in particular, the EV charger. So this is a fast charger, level 2 fast charger. It's compatible with all electric vehicles on the market right now. It has a 5-year warranty, which is industry best right now, rated for indoor or outdoor. It has an extended cable length, which is actually very useful, especially if you and your spouse or whoever you're living with has an EV as well. It allows you to really mount this into the garage at a central location, and its extended cable allows you to plug into either vehicle. It's all remotely managed through my SolarEdge, which is our app, and for homeowners, and you can actually smart schedule straight through there. So it allows your homeowners to schedule exactly when charging has happened. And one of the really cool things about this EV charger is it has what's called solar boost mode. So this will take the excess solar energy that that home is not using at that time, and instead of sending it to the grid, it's going to send it directly to the car. So in these places where we have this zero export or unfavorable export, this is allowing us to really leverage where that energy is going, so that that we can utilize that in that way. I do see a question in here real quick. Is it possible to use a SolarEdge battery with a load center and microinverters from a different manufacturer? No. So, there is a reason why we have an ecosystem. Optimizers are optimizing the roof. They're called module level power electronics for a reason. So you will be able to utilize our optimizers with our DC technology. Thank you. Great questions. Keep them coming. One other piece about this EV charger that I especially like is that this is wired directly into the inverter. Why is that important? Well, if any of you have installed an EV charger alongside solar for a homeowner, you know that a lot of times that will trigger a main panel upgrade. That will take up additional space in the main service panel, or that homeowner needs a 240 volt outlet, right? This actually wires directly into the inverter, and it's sharing breaker space with that inverter as well. So it helps you to avoid main panel upgrades. All right, and then here's our battery. So this is a 10 kilowatt hour battery, 9.7 kilowatt hour usable capacity. So we can drain that battery 100% of that 9.7. I'm going to talk about efficiency in a second, because that's really our bread and butter when we're talking about DC coupled. But want to also point out that this has a 10-year warranty at 70% capacity retention, but we have unlimited cycles as a part of that warranty. So this allows your homeowners to charge and discharge as many times as they need to. And in these areas with time of use, we absolutely have to do that. So that is very helpful. Safety. So we are UL 9540A rated. We have that certification. So that's actually the highest safety standard in solar batteries in terms of safety certification. So you can be assured that we are a very safe battery. So let's talk about the efficiency. So this is really, as I mentioned, the bread and butter of a DC coupled solution. When we're talking about an ecosystem and smart energy, DC coupled is really important. As you see, we have all of our smart energy devices on the DC side of the inverter. And what this means is not only does this allow us to convert just one time, but it also allows us to manipulate where that energy is going. So if we have excess PV that would normally be clipped in an AC coupled solution, we can actually take that DC direct energy and charge the battery with it. So we have very minimal energy loss in this solution because we can charge from DC direct energy. This allows us to convert at one location, which is that inverter, before we use it in the house. In an AC coupled solution, you actually have 3 different conversions of energy before you can use that energy in the home, because the PV system and the battery work somewhat independently. You have inverters on the roof, and then you have inverters within the battery that enable it to convert 3 times. And what ends up happening there is every single time you convert, you actually dilute some of that energy. So we're seeing, dependent on which battery you're looking at, a 6 to 10% efficiency gain on our side when compared to the same size battery, because of the conversion piece and the ability to convert only once as opposed to 3 times. So for your homeowners, this is generally equating to about 10 free days of power from this battery if they were to charge and discharge on a daily basis. So here's that main panel upgrade piece. I wanted to just show a diagram of what I'm meaning here. So everything that you have as a part of this ecosystem is wired directly into the inverter. This allows you to avoid main panel upgrades because every single time you have a smart energy device, it usually elicits, at least in an AC coupled solution, more space on that main service panel. But we're wiring everything into the inverter. So it's sharing a breaker space with that inverter, and that's what's taking up space in the main service panel. When we're talking about AC coupled, the solar, the battery, and the EV charger take up that separate space. So if you are running into a lot of main panel upgrades as a result of adding batteries, this could be the culprit. I would challenge you to build a proposal with a DC coupled solution with SolarEdge and see if you can avoid some of those main panel upgrades in those scenarios. Additionally, I wanted to show my SolarEdge. So this is that homeowner facing app that I mentioned. This is another reason why, and great question from our, can you use another manufacturer with our equipment? This is another reason why we don't want to, simply because this allows your homeowner to use one app to manage everything. So their solar system, their battery, their EV charger, all of those smart home devices, if they have the relays and switches, and it allows them to manage the ecosystem from one app. It additionally allows our ecosystem to talk to each other. So we can send the energy to where is most advantageous for that homeowner, whether it's the car, the battery, or directly into the home. And we're going to have to do that a lot more as we are getting into more of these changes in net metering where we don't want to export as much as possible. And alternatively, sometimes export during some very advantageous hours. Like in California, we have 2 hours in September where we're making $3 a kilowatt hour. We want to be able to automatically discharge the battery during those times. So we want an ecosystem that talks to each other and all of the components so that we can do all of that on an automatic level for your homeowners. And my SolarEdge allows us to do that. Okay, so that is, and I really just wanted to give a quick glimpse of our training and our value. I know that we didn't have a lot of time to really dive in today, but wanted to give a sneak peek in terms of what we do offer here at SolarEdge. My goal is really to make solar training much simpler to understand so that you can go to your homeowners with digestible content that's easy to explain. And I'd love to help you get there even more. So we have SolarEdge Sales Elite, which is a network that we run here at SolarEdge for additional interactive live training sessions. We do kitchen table selling tools. We have swag and giveaways, and it's a lot of fun. If you want to be a part of that, just scan that QR code. Would love for you to join. We also have certifications through Edge Academy. So for both sales and technical on all of our products. We have a lot of videos on YouTube in our North America playlist. You can just follow and subscribe there. And then we also have a Sales Elite Facebook group on Facebook. So if you do have any direct questions, my team has that up and running all day, and we answer questions all day through there from salespeople. So thank you so much. I'm going to turn it back over to Adrian now. I appreciate everybody being on. And if you have any additional questions, please put them in the chat box.
All right. Well, thank you so much for that, all that great information. At this point, this is pretty much the end of the webinar, unless you all have any questions. I don't see any in the chat at this point. But feel free to put them in there or on the Q&A section if there's anything else we could answer for you. Otherwise, we'd be happy to hear from you at Learn More, Join Mosaic, or contact your SolarEdge representative and order as many batteries as you possibly can.
They are available, as I say, and really especially love the Mosaic battery only solution because we're hearing a lot of customers wanting to go back and add batteries later. So thank you for having that option out there in the market. All right, it looks like no more questions from our group.
You did that good of a job. All right. Well, great job, Michelle. Thanks so much. I guess we'll go ahead and close it. Catch up with either one of us on LinkedIn, check out our resources here, or give us a ring whenever you guys are interested. Look forward to
Thanks,
hearing from you all.
Adrian. Thanks,
Good to
Carol.
see some old friends. Thanks for your time.